fast, fatal heart impact. Past painful scars, in fact I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions jacked. Attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember you're discreet out, get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before I do begin, I'm going to be releasing some more Minishots. And I've actually been thinking about something recently. I might make a post in my community tab talking about potential ideas for my 12K special, since while I do know I missed it, I do know after I get a few more series off of my plate, I do want to do one. So I'm going to be trying to gauge your guys' interest with some what ifs, and see if you guys actually do want to vote on some of the mini shots I can do. Now, with that being said, let's just jump right into the story. Now, what if Deku was sold to a Mafia family? Our story starts with Izuku Midoriya. After learning that he would be born quirkless, or after finding out he was quirkless at a young age, his family had a bit of a hard time. And, well, Hasashi, he was actually doing his job overseas and making plenty of money. He had some to spare. Eventually, what happened was, he started going out drinking with friends, or colleagues from work, and eventually that kind of steamrolled into gambling. And after spending a little bit more money and then putting some money aside, you did actually have where he was sending a little bit less money back home. And while that doesn't seem like very much, eventually after skimming off too much off the top, Inko and Deku couldn't really make a payment on the rent. Deku being far too young. And Inko, she did actually have to try and give up a few things. Buying cheaper stuff like food and, occasionally skipping a meal now and then. And while she did talk to Hasashi about this, Hasashi talked about how he may have gotten a pay cut, lying to Inko. As eventually the two, they had to move out of their very, very pricey apartment. And Deku, he left and never saw Bakugo again. Now, this would somewhat happen. And while Inko, she was annoyed at this, she could understand that Hasashi was trying his best, not realizing that he was lying to her face. Now, we do have a few years down the line, where after Inko did have to pick up a bit of a job herself, and Deku, he was primarily focusing on school and everything like that, you did where he was able to actually get to the point where he can get a job himself, and helps take some stress off of his mom. While it wasn't very good at first, he eventually was able to work his way up. And after his most recent promotion, and the fact that he was thinking about going to college recently, things were somewhat good. And we do have Deku right now. He is currently leaving his latest lecture for the day, and he's taking some notes. He's got a few things he has to solve and go over. He has an exam that's going to be coming up that will be integral to getting a very good paying job in the future. And he does sort of just think. He's walking home, and he does have his headphones in. He's just wondering, today is going to be a bit annoying. Let's see, for his schedule, he has to get home, shower, change, and then go to work. Then he has to work basically up from this time, or let's just say 3 to most likely 11 or midnight, and then he has to do his homework. Then he has to get up early in the morning for an 8 a.m. lecture and then repeat the process. And while that doesn't really seem very bad, there's the fact that there's a lack of sleep he might get. He knows that while he could try to do his problems on his lunch break, he would really just rather take that time to sit down and relax and just enjoy some peace and quiet. Now, Deku, he's kind of annoyed. He's been doing this for the last couple of days. He's not been getting a lot of sleep lately, and his job is sort of keeping him a bit more busy. Now, Deku, he doesn't even really notice it. With the fact that his mind is preoccupied and his headphones are in, you do actually have where men with a car do pull up. They actually are sitting right across from the street and in the car, as Deku walked by them and didn't pay them any mind, not even looking in their direction, as we do have the man in the driver's seat. He does get a look down at the picture that he's been given. So is this him? Yup, that's his kid. Huh. So what did this kid do to get involved with us? He didn't do anything. Blame it on his old man. Really? Yeah. Anyways, that's where the boss has us here. All the way in Japan? Yeah. So, you know the routine. Yeah, I got it. Still, this is a bit much. Travel all the way overseas just for this? Yeah, well, this is the boss's orders. I just follow them. I don't question them nor do I listen to them. If you want to question the boss, go right ahead. It's your head on the chopping block. Now, the man, he does quickly shut up, as the men do get out of the car and start to follow Deku. While the man, or the third man in the passenger seat, he does actually go to get into the driver's seat and go to start following them. As you do actually have the two men. Whenever the black car Deku sees pull up right past him, does go to stop at a light, Deku, he does go to wait. Him going to press the button as he does go to look from his left and to his right. That's weird. And then again, no one usually does travel around here this time. It's a nice quiet road. Now, as Deku does think that you do actually have where he does feel something strange. He actually does feel a force hit him from behind, as he's then suddenly just jerked backwards and someone just cover his mouth. His headphones falling out of his ear, as you do actually have where a second man Deku sees, he does come right up to his right. The man actually going to bring his hands up, as before Deku can even really try to fight against this strong guy behind him, he's jabbed in the neck. And he suddenly just goes limp. Now, Deku's dragged into the car, and the men do leave. As we do cut to Deku's point of view about a few hours later, where Deku, he's been taken somewhere. And right now he's very confused. Him going to wake up and trying to look around, as it's very dark. And he does go to try and move, finding that his hands, they're covered. Shit. What the fuck is going on? So you're finally awake. Who's there? The hood being pulled off of Deku's head. So, you're Hisashi Midoriya's kid. Who the fuck are you? Where am I? What's going on? I see. He didn't tell you. Tell me what? He really didn't give his own son a heads up. I knew he was an idiotic gambler, but this is seriously bad. My father? A gambler? Wait, how do you even know my dad? He's never gambled a day in his life. I wasn't aware he was a liar either. Kid, your father gambled you away to us. To me, in fact. My name is very much something you do not want to know. All you will do is call me sir. Now, that is my first rule. If you break this rule, there will be consequences. Do you understand? Well, this guy is crazy. Okay, best to do what he says. Yes, sir. You learn quick. That's good. I believe that's the first thing I may like about you. Now, the man giving Deku an explanation, as he does go to throw down a few files and some even paperwork. As Deku, he does look at the table in front of him. As he can tell as the man does flip through everything, that, from what he sees, it's all crazy. And he's somewhat angry. He sees his father's signature. he sees pictures of the two shaking hands, and he gets an audio recording. All of it basically verifying this guy, he's now Deku's legal guardian. And everything he's seeing, everything he's hearing, it just throws him for a complete loop. Now, the man does inform Deku. His father, he racked up over 1 million USD dollars in debt. And roughly putting that into Japanese money, that's a lot. So, his father, well, he was actually very confused and possibly even drunk. He did at least talk about bargaining or selling off his own son to cover his debt. The man was very heartless. Selling off his own son? Wouldn't he agree? I don't understand. My father, I haven't seen him since I was 10. Since you were 10? Yes. He came back briefly, and I met him again, but before that, I mean, the last time I saw him, it was whenever I was a child. I see. So the man does not have very much of a parental connection to you, nor does he think of you as a son. What? I'm very sorry, young man. Your father sounds like the type of man I would usually kill. Kill? Yes. Now, we can talk about that very briefly. However, I believe I should at least inform you of the other part of the debt. There's more? Yes. You only quantify for about 75%. And the rest of the money you have to work off. That is why you are here. In fact, there are very little people I can trust within my organization. And after the most recent attempt of my life, I am very, very much worried. Okay, so why do you need me? You, my friend, are a stranger. Yeah, that's my question. From what I've been told, from researching you and looking into you, you are in college, you have a job, and you're working to try and take care of your mother, correct? Yes, sir. But I don't understand what you're talking about. If your father didn't pay me the rest of the money, I would kill your mother. And you. What? Yes. That would cover the 1 million. Then I would put his body in a ditch somewhere. However, I was curious whenever he brought up bargaining you. You see, my daughter, her bodyguard has been killed. Okay. And, most recently, there's you. A polite, courteous young man who listens and who knows how to. I would like for you to become my daughter's bodyguard. I'm sorry, what? You just said it for yourself. I'm a stranger, and that is exactly why. You do not know who I am. And I, along with many of my other men, will train you to protect my daughter. If you do not meet my requirements, nor do you pay off the rest of the debt, you and your family will be killed. It's quite simple. You try to betray me, you die, along with your parents. You not live up to my expectations, and well, I'll just kill your father. And I will send you back to Japan, and you will have no idea what to do. Now, do you understand? Yes, sir. Good. Now, the man he does actually go to undo Deku's restraints. As Deku, he does slowly go to stand up. And the man he does at least inform Deku as to what to do. Now, over the next couple weeks, Deku, he actually does go through some training. Those weeks turning into months. And while it was actually very stressful and hard to do, Deku, after at least learning what he does need to, he goes into the process of paying off the debt. Or the rest of it. And this is the first day it's supposed to happen. Deku got up this morning, He brushed his teeth, he put gel in his hair, and he put on one of his finely pressed suits that he was given. He has about 5 to 10 of these in identical make and size, along with even color. Now, he does actually go to walk downstairs, as he does go to stand in position and put his hands behind his back, as he does bring his left hand out first and put it in the small of his back, before going to do the same thing with his right hand and going to actually interlock his thumbs as he lays his right palm on his left. Now, Deku stays standing like that as he is actually going to make sure his feet are straight and the way his body is looks presentable. As you do actually have where Deku, while he's standing there, you do actually have his boss, or the man that scared Deku. He comes walking downstairs, and he looks at Deku's performance. As while he's standing there, he actually is going to do one thing. He goes to walk by Deku. As he does, he actually is going to pull a knife and go to try and slash at Deku or go to attack him. Deku actually going to step backwards as he does go to get ready. Deku going to actually reach his right hand outwards and going to grab a knife hidden in the back of his waistband. Him actually going to bring it upwards as he just open it and the switchblade does rest against his boss's cheek. And the man, he actually just looked down at Deku, as he does actually go to at least look down to see Deku's other hand. As Deku does go to look down and see his boss's other hand. The man has a gun pointed firmly against Deku's kneecap. As Deku, he has one firmly planted in the man's stomach. And the man, he actually is very surprised. Deku, he's learned quick. Now, the man does back away, as Deku does go to close his knife and go to put it backwards in a place that cannot be seen by a normal person. Now, as he does set the knife back down, you do have where he does present his daughter. Her walking out of the room that was closed behind him. And Deku, he does see her. As it's very surprising. Now, he's just taken aback. Hello, ma'am. Hello. I assume you're my bodyguard? That would be correct. Yes. Now, Deku is going to bend down, him falling onto one knee as he does going to bring him his hand, informing her that his name is Izuku Midoriya, and he will put his life on the line to protect her. Her actually looking down, going to stand, or Deku goes to stand back up as she just stare at him. He does seem to be a very polite young man, and there is actually where she is going to hold out her hand and introduce herself, talking about how her name is Abigail Flora. Now, Deku is going to reach out his own, as he shakes her hand and talks about how that is a very lovely name. Thank you. Now, Deku, he does actually go to turn his head, looking right at his boss. The man's glowing red eyes are a very good indicator that he is now on the job. And from this point on, he's starting to pay off the debts. Now, as Deku and, well, Abigail, they do stick together, there is actually where she does see some things Deku does do. While he's sitting down or following her around, he does usually tend to look around a lot. And it does seem kind of strange. And you do actually have the two after leaving the mansion and going to eat at a nearby restaurant for lunch. Her and Deku are both sitting down. As Deku, while everybody is walking by them, he does occasionally look left and look right. As she does just stare at Deku. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am? Are you okay? Yes, ma'am. It's just I'm trying to stay focused. Okay, I understand that. But am I correct in the assumption that you've wronged my father? Now, Deku does snap back to look at her. Excuse me? I'm very sorry, but it just seems, from what I can tell, you're not doing this job because you want to. Um, well, ma'am, that's. No. She does just stare at Deku. As Deku, he does go to lie, informing her that he's doing this job because he wants to get paid a very decent wage. Her staring at him is just somewhat frown. I see. I can tell when you are lying. What? Yes, that is my quirk. It is one I do have, it's along with my father. So, that's my family's ability. I see. Alright. Well, I guess there's no point in it then. I'm doing this job to pay off a debt. Now, she does look at Deku. As Deku, he does check out. For her, this is different. Her quirk is very simple. It allows her to tell when a person is lying based on what she sees. The red coloration in her eyes is a part of that said quirk. She can see people, and they do one simple thing. If they're lying, they turn red. Her vision will show that they're lying. If they are not lying, then they do one simple thing. They turn back to normal just like any other person would. And she can tell when someone's lying based on what color they are. Now, with that being said, she does continue talking with Deku, trying to ask him more and more questions, and since Deku does know that she can tell he's lying, he does decide to try and answer them as best as possible. And she's very surprised. And Deku, he does continue on. Well, the two are having somewhat of a nicer dinner, or not dinner, lunch. It does seem like she's getting a bit more comfortable talking with him. From what she understands, he was going to be in college, or he was, and he did have a job. He seems like a very nice young man. And then whenever she tries to ask about his mother, he doesn't really seem too happy about that subject. As he does talk about how he doesn't know. And she's very surprised whenever it finds that Deku is telling the truth. I'm sorry? Why haven't you talked to your mother? Well, I can't see her again until the debt's paid off. Are you serious? Yes. I don't know how else to put it to you. My father sold me to yours. Technically, your father's my legal guardian. Well, I am technically an adult since my 20th was a few months ago. It does seem to appear that your father basically owns my life. And I don't know what else to say about that. If I don't pay off this debt, or I simply do not live up to his expectations, or you die, so do me and my family. And honestly, I don't care about my dad anymore. Now, she's very surprised hearing Deku say those words, as he does not change in color. She's about to ask him why. Why doesn't he care about his father? As the moment she actually is going to open her mouth, you do actually have Deku, who out of the corner of his eye, he does see a man go to stand. And he does see something gleam in his pocket. Deku actually going to reach his hand down and go to grab his gun. As the moment the man is going to stand and go to pull his gun and go to scream something, Deku he immediately fires the gun right at the man. As he does go to immediately flip the table doing so. Now, as the table does flip and Deku shot the man he immediately got hit in the chest and went flying backwards into the ground. Deku lunging forwards as he's going to grab onto Abigail, him actually pulling her towards him to the ground as he does inform her to stay down. Now, a few other men do start to get up, And while people are running out of the restaurant, there is actually Deku. He does get ready, as he's been trained to deal with his stuff. Okay, that was a guy dying. Okay. Him actually going to look up. As a guy does step forwards, he does have a large gun in his hands. Deku bring up his gun and going to actually fire again. As when he does so, the man he does going to hit the ground. And gunfire it does start to hit the table. As will Abigail, she's staying low to the ground, right where Deku, if he were to take cover and put his head against the table, he'd be shot. Deku throwing himself against the ground, as he is going to do one thing. He does stay down and wait. As he does start to hear footsteps, Deku, he goes to bring his gun up and go to pull it right through one of the holes that a bullet came out of. Deku firing multiple shots, as he does go to stand, hearing men try to dive and run for cover. The moment Deku does go to stand up, he looks towards the man with the large gun. Deku running over and going to actually grab it. As the moment he does grab it and go to turn, he does see a guy trying to rush Deku. Deku immediately turning as he is going to pull the trigger. And Deku does feel the recoil as it starts to just spray and pray the rifle. Now, Deku, he does send out probably about 22, somewhere around 15 bullets, as he empties the magazine into multiple tables and areas where men were all sitting down. And you do actually have Abigail, who should go to try and stand up and go to look at Deku. As Deku does just go to toss down the weapon, he does go to try and grab his second magazine, looking towards Abigail and telling her that they need to get out. As whenever he does reload, he does go to turn around and run, quickly grabbing Abigail by her hand as he's going to pull her into the cooking area, or into, let's just say, the back of the kitchen. Now, the two do run to this area, as Deku does quickly go to burst through the emergency exit and go to run with Abigail. The two running through the car and getting in, as Deku quickly peels out of there and drives away. Now, Abigail, she is looking at Deku. As Deku, he's quickly just driving and just putting pedal to the metal, running through stoplights and not even trying to look back. Okay, what's going on? There's men after you. Okay, that's the truth. Yeah, okay. I don't know who they are. They just want to kill you. Okay, that's a bit too much information. You know when I'm lying, so why bother? Okay, understandable, but please slow down. I can't. Why? They're right behind us. Now, she does see Deku not turn red, but he does turn blue. And she does realize one thing. Her quirk allows her to tell when people are lying, and tell the truth. But blue, it means one simple thing. It's a half lie. Her actually going to turn around. And whenever she does actually see a large vehicle behind them or a large SUV, she's going to turn back to Deku. And Deku does turn back to normal. Now, as Deku turned back to normal, you do actually have where Deku is going to swerve into the left lane, as the large SUV behind them did almost ram into the back of them. As Deku did actually start going pedal to the metal, driving very fast. And Abigail, as Deku did look very composed, whenever she did look over at him, he told her to start dialing her father or at least additional security. Since right now, things are very bad. He only has 2 magazines and they don't know how many people are behind them. Now, Abigail, she's very confused, as she is going to pull her phone and go to dial the number. And you do actually have Deku. He's very surprised. These guys aren't trying to fire randomly. Okay, that's a good sign. So, that's also bad. These guys, if they're not trying to fire randomly, they're probably waiting to try to corner them maybe. That's possibly it. But if he stays on the highway, they won't be cornered for probably at least the next couple miles. 50, 100 maybe? Probably until this thing, well, either ends or they run out of gas. And he's got more than a, what, 3/4 of a tank? They won't risk shooting. If they wanted to kill her, they would do that. So, what they're trying to do is capture her. trying to get money, maybe? That's gotta be it. Now, Deku, he quickly realizes one thing. They're trying to catch her and use her as leverage. And since they don't know if she's in the car, in the back seat, or in the front seat, they're not going to try to risk firing at her. And you do actually have where Deku, while he's driving, he does actually look over at Abigail as she's almost panicking. And she actually is talking to her dad. Now, Deku is handed the phone. Him grabbing it quickly with one hand. Hello? Young man, am I clear as to what's going on? Yes, sir. We're being traced down. From what I have been able to assess, men are after your daughter. They're not aiming to kill. If they would, they'd be firing through the windows right now. I've only got 2 magazines left. Oh, yes, young man. Where are you now? Deku telling him that he's going to try to head for this location. It's roughly about 30 to 40 minutes away, and he has more than enough gas to get there. However, stopping will not be an option. I see, young man. All right. Additional men are on their way. Keep her safe, do you hear me? Yes, sir. I'll put my life on the line for her. Now, Deku quickly does hang up the phone, as he's going to bring it back over to Abigail. This being where the guys behind Deku, they actually are speeding up and getting closer. And Deku, he does notice that. As he's going to do one thing. He presses a button on the steering wheel. As he does go to look behind him. The men that are right behind them. If they ran them and get them off the road, this is going to be very bad. Okay. Abigail. What? I'm going to need you to do one simple thing. Deku going to do one thing. The button he pressed was the cruise control button. Deku putting his foot off of the gas, as he's going to do one thing. Reaching his left hand outwards, he goes to move back his seat as much as he can. Him telling her to grab onto the steering wheel. Now, this actually is very surprising. Her watching as Deku does go to bring up his left hand and go to roll down the window. As the moment Deku does so, he does do one thing. He goes to grab onto the handle directly above his head. As he does go to turn around and go to pull his gun. As Deku does so, he quickly does one thing. The driver, they see Deku. And Deku, whenever he does bring his hand up, he goes to fire into the grill of the vehicle. As the men, they do quickly try to back off and hit the brakes. However, Deku sends 4 bullets right into the engine of the vehicle. And, yeah, he destroys the radiator. As the car does fall behind, Deku does see that there's actually some other vehicles behind them. And they all do move out of the way and quickly continue the chase. Deku trying to fire on the other vehicles. However, they're too far away, and he ends up wasting a few additional bullets. As he does get back in the car, and Abigail, she's still trying to keep the car steady. As Deku, whenever he does turn back around, he does go to grab the steering wheel. Him swerving to the right, as he does basically cut off a car and then get into the turn lane. Him driving off of it like a madman. This being where she actually is kind of confused. As Deku, he does go to hit the brakes whenever they're very close to the light, and Deku, he does actually go to get onto the sidewalk. Them going back onto the street after a large bump and continue driving. As the men, they're actually stuck behind a few cars. And Deku, after at least getting about a block or 2 down, he does continue driving. He doesn't try to slow down, and Abigail can notice that. Her asking Deku if he thinks they're still behind them. To which he tells her that he's sure of it. Now, eventually Deku and Abigail, while they were trying to play cat and mouse with these men, they're eventually brought to a corner. After, surprise, surprise, multiple different vehicles descending on them. And even whenever they actually do get hit on one side and the vehicle is damaged. And Deku does have to take a bit of a detour. As we do cut to a parking garage, where Deku and Abigail, they are actually there. At this point, the men are descending on the vehicle. And multiple men with assault rifles, they're actually walking up and getting ready. As whenever one man does step forwards and go to open the car door, that was the driver's side. He's kind of caught off guard to see that it's empty, along with the rest of the vehicle, the passenger side, and then the back seat. It's all empty. This being when the man does turn and inform his men to search the entire garage, since they couldn't have gotten far. You do have Deku. Him and Abigail are currently running down the street. As the man, he's talking on a radio about how they're in the area, and they might be on foot. As he does inform all of them to look for people matching the descriptions he's about to give. This being where Deku and Abigail, as they're running down the street, Deku, he is actually waiting for his phone to buzz. As whenever he does hear it finally ring, he quickly answers it and informs his boss of the location, which is about 10 minutes away. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, right now it is. There's about 20 to 40 men pursuing them, and Deku, he's not enough manpower to handle this. As we do have whenever Deku and Abigail, they do see one of the suspicious looking vehicles, they cut into an alleyway. And Deku and Abigail, they actually have to hide. Deku going to grab Abigail as he actually does somewhat just go to throw himself against a wall and out of the way. As Abigail, she does see that Deku, he's very close to her. Sorry. Deku will actually lean his head back against the wall. This is very crazy for our first day. Yeah, you're saying that. Her looking away. As Deku doesn't want her to look down. I'm very sorry right now. You're trying to do your job. Besides, I can understand. Now, Deku, he does actually hear something. As he does go to lean his head around the wall and see that the guy is walking down the alley. As he does go to quickly let go of Abigail and tell her that she needs to hide. What about you? Your father's on the way with his men. Besides, it's just one guy. I should be able to take him. As Deku does think that, Abigail should just try to hide in the nearby area. As the man, he is walking around. He does have his rifle in his hands. And you do actually have Deku. The man walking around the corner, as Deku, he did go to do one thing. Whenever he saw a foot, he quickly went to go smash his foot down to the ankle. As he did throw out his left hand and go to grab the front of the rifle. Him throwing it upwards into the air as the man pulled the trigger. Deku bringing up his right hand and going to try and smash the man upwards in the face. As Deku, not only does he hit the man, he's actually able to get onto the strap covering his helmet. Deku bringing up his hand and quickly trying to pull that as he does pull the man down and being able to kick him in the gut. The man actually going to let go of his weapon as he does try to pull a knife. And you do actually have where Deku, after the man does pull the knife and try and swing at him, he does cut through Deku's coat. And Deku, after jumping backwards, he does go to grab his own knife, going to bring it up. As he does try to think on his situation. A few months ago, he was a normal college student. Right now, he's protecting the daughter of a Mafia boss while in a knife fight. How things change. As this thought does go through Deku's mind, the man does rush him. As he does try to lash out forwards against Deku. And Deku, after going to dodge to his right, the man is going to use his other hand. Going to pull a second blade and actually be able to stab and slash into Deku's side. Deku actually going to bring his knife around, spinning it, as he's going to try to slash down towards the man. The man actually being able to move his head out of the way as he does actually rush in and actually kick Deku in the chest. Deku flying backwards, as you do have with the man, he does rush Deku. Him trying to slash Deku in the face as he actually does get Deku on the cheek. After Deku does move his head, the man stabs directly into the wall. Him actually trying to slash, or at least move the blade forward, trying to punch Deku in the face and slash him more. As he does going to use his other hand. He does going to bring up his other hand to try and get Deku. However, Deku is actually able to bring up his elbow, and not only dodge and counter the man, the knife is directly right in front of Deku's face. Deku actually going to spin his blade and stab it downwards in the man's bicep. As he does dig it in deeper and deeper. The man, as he's screaming, he does going to let go of the knife from the wall. Going to actually grab at Deku's and trying to pull onto it, as he's trying to also force his knife into Deku's face. As the knife actually is starting to pierce into Deku's cheek, he does somewhat start to wince in pain, and somewhat grunts. As Deku, he does go to bring up, or he's trying to use his foot, trying to kick it in the man's ninja leg and just hit it harder and harder. As Deku, he actually does go to bring his leg up, and go to kick directly into the back of the man's hurt leg, being able to buckle his knee as the man does fall backwards. Deku being able to actually lash his knife that's deep into his left bicep upwards and actually hit bone. As Deku, he basically just tore from the part of the man's elbow in his left arm upwards to by his armpits. He cut it completely open and the knife wound is very visible. As this actually does happen, you do have nearby. The men on both sides, they were here, and they do descend on the location. The men Deku is working with, and not only does he work for, they're here now. And there is actually where the men, after hearing the gunfire, they did try to run to the area. However, after large amounts of vehicles were seen descending on this location, some men tried to retreat. Meanwhile, others were being chased down. As you do actually have the knife fight, and back over there. The man, he has injured Deku. And Deku, he's disabled, or at least stopped the uses of one of his arms. But even then, whenever Deku does try to fight and counter this man more, this man's still very skilled in combat. And Deku, he feels like he's outmatched here. While Deku has basic knowledge on some martial arts and other things he's been trained in, this man is literally a mercenary. He's got to be with the way he's moving, the way he's presented himself. And Deku, after at least taking a stab to the chest, or at least a stab into the side, he does somewhat scream out in pain. As Abigail, she actually does get out from behind her hiding spot and scream for Izuku. The man turning his head, as he's going to actually pull the knife out and stab it into Deku's gut once again, twisting it and informing him that he's just a little fucking bodyguard. As he does go to let go of the knife and go to watch Deku drop onto the ground. Now, Abigail does look at Deku. Deku, through this entire exchange, he's had his face slashed and his other cheek stabbed into. Along with that, he's had some teeth bashed in. And there's also the fact that not only is, well, his body covered in knife wounds, and there's a knife sticking out of his gut, he has 3 wounds that do seem like they're going to need immediate medical attention. And you do actually have with a man where he doesn't have the use of one of his arms anymore, and he does have to get it patched up immediately, since he might bleed to death. He's able to somewhat continue going because of his quirk. Now, he is walking towards Abigail. As Abigail, she's staring at this man frozen in fear. How can a man keep going with so many injuries? And you do actually have Deku, who, as he was laying against the ground, he did somewhat start to get back up. And Abigail, she was just frozen. She couldn't really focus or think. She thinks that she's about to be killed. She thinks that she's about to die. And you do actually have where, well, Abigail's father, he does walk into the alleyway with some of his men. And they do see one simple thing. Deku, he's directly behind the man. As he took the knife that was lodged into his stomach, he grabbed the man by the back of his hair and directly jabbed the knife upwards into his jugular. As the man, he actually going to try and bring his hands up, trying to grab onto Deku's arm as his body was somewhat starting to spaz out. And Deku just let go of the man as he just did fall over. And the man, he's just trying to reach and grab the knife. Now, you do actually have Deku who is holding onto the immense wounds on his body, as he does somewhat try to walk forward towards Abigail. Now, Deku, he actually is trying to ask if she's okay. However, the moment he does go to open his mouth, his vision gets fuzzy, and he does actually fall forwards onto his knees. And the moment he does go to move forwards to slump onto the ground, Abigail, she does move forwards to catch him. As there is over, the men do rush over. And Deku, he does wake up later. Him actually confused as he is going to try and lean upwards. As he does so, he does find immense amounts of pain in his gut. As you do, however, there's also the fact that his face feels covered. It feels sticky, too. Uh, what the fuck happened? You're awake? Hmm? Abigail? Yes, it's me. Are you okay? Yeah, I think so. What happened? You... you killed him. I... I can't believe it. I know. I... I did. I... I had to. Now, Abigail, she does see Deku. Deku turned to blue. A half lie. Or a half truth. She's all too familiar with these. She does want to continue talking more, as there is one of her Abigail's followers walk in. And Deku, he does see the silhouette of a man in a black suit, with glowing red eyes. So, that was quite interesting. Yes, sir. Do you believe you served my daughter well? Yes, sir. I protected her with my life. I tried my best. I'm well aware of that, young man. I'm well aware of that. Now, rest up. You need to heal. Once you are able to fully recover, you will go back to active duty. For right now, you have earned a break. Quite an eventful first day. About, what, 15 men captured? And about 4 to 5 men dead, including the one in the alleyway. Do you remember what happened? Vaguely, sir. Just fuzzy at the end. A knife fight. I was stabbed a couple times. I did my best. I tried to use my training, sir. Very good. And what's the last thing you remember? I... Well, I got up. And the last thing I remember is Abigail catching me. Good. You're being honest with me. I respect that. Now, rest up. The man going to walk away, as Deku does sit there. And there is actually where Abigail, she does open her mouth asking if Deku, he really went to that far extent just because of how worried he is of his family. Yes. I don't get it. You said you hated your dad. Yes, I know. But I still love my mom. Huh? I don't know how to explain it to you. I rely on her a lot. I don't want your father to kill her. I'm sorry this happened to you. Don't be. It's my dad's fault. Abigail looking at Deku. Deku, he goes from being blue to back to normal. And she can tell that that was a truth. Deku wholeheartedly believes this is his dad's fault. Which, while it is, it does show exactly how Deku does think. He doesn't try to blame his dad, he doesn't try to make him seem innocent in his own mind. He knows his father did this to him. He knows he's been forced into this life. Now, she does try to ask Deku if he's okay. Not physically. Not mentally either. Are you alright? Yes. Listen, just don't worry about me right now. I'm more worried about you. You got stabbed. Like 3 times. Actually, it was more than that. Only, I think, 2 were in the gut. My arm's all sliced up though, so that hurts. Along with my hand. Yeah. And your face. You Well, you did look nice. What? I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you. I don't think I heard you right. My head's all fucked up with this morphine. Nothing. Her going to look away. And Deku, he doesn't want to look at Abigail for a second. Are her cheeks red? That's weird. Now, Abigail does quickly leave the room. As Deku, he's just trying to think about everything that happened today. Trying to go over things in his mind. And he's just trying to wonder, did this give him a good, well, you know, did this give him a good look in front of his boss? Did this give him a good performance? Did this give him enough to pass? Well, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And to have an amazing night, I'll catch you guys in the next part. Or the next one-shots.